recording. All right. Hello, I am back. Let me need to hop onto the Discord too. I think he might be. He's already there. Haha, you've beat me to it. Kinda knew you were already on the Discord, but I wasn't sure. Oh. I've been here for days. No, you haven't. I think my dogs are outside my my door. Let me check real quick. I don't know why they won't stay in my room. No, Cookie, you have to go over there. No, you're gonna whine. No, I'm not letting her in. Because then she'll want to go back out. Nah, not having that. Okay. So, yes, I'm going to read again. Uh-oh. Where did I leave off? Uh-oh. I think, oh yeah, it was the bogey one, right? Yeah, that's where we last left off, right? I'm pretty sure that's where we laughed. That's where we laughed. That's where we left off last time. Yeah, they just escaped the boogeyman. Yep. Okay. I just want to see how much I want to read today. I feel like I want to read a lot today because I'm starting at 12. But also, I gotta eat real food and all that jazz. Oops. I muted myself. Yeah, I want to read a lot, but at the same time, that's really tiring. But also, I'm gonna get a good good session going on. All right. So how about we start? Man, I love reading. I love reading so much. So chapter 15. Yes, chapter 15. Sorry, I'm just looking at the mic reader, and it's so cool how it still picks up noises probably from outside and stuff. I don't know. I think that's cool. Anyway. Oh man, okay, not to interrupt reading time, but let me tell you, my mom, she got me this Iberian pork, it's thinly sliced. It's like deli meat, but I don't know. It's so good. Like, so good. My God. It is very good. I want to eat more. I'll probably eat more when I'm done. No, I want to eat my turbo flamas because I haven't even touched those in forever. Yeah. Okay, I gotta read. It is good. It's really good. All right. Chapter 15. By the sea. I'm starving. May slid to a stop and let her sack slide down from her shoulder onto the sand. Without a sun above them to show the day passing, she couldn't tell how long they'd been walking, but it seemed like it must have been 3 hours or more. How long do you think we've been at it? I don't know, but I'm exhausted. For the past several minutes, Pumpkin had been lagging behind. Excuse me, sorry. Okay, where was I? I was, yeah. For the past several minutes, Pumpkin had been lagging behind, moving as if every inch pained him. Now he plopped down into a sitting hover above the sand. May sighed. Pumpkin didn't know much of anything. She wondered if it would have been better to leave him back at Belmorte. Then she felt guilty for the thought. She pulled up her water bottle and swished it around in front of her. She'd drunk out of it many times already, but the level of water hadn't gone down even an inch. Just as Arista had promised, she still couldn't believe it. She took several huge gulps, then wiped the cool bottle across her sweaty forehead. Hey, do you see that? Pumpkin asked, pointing forward. There was a black line on the horizon. Do you think that's it? I don't know. They both walked another few minutes, and after a few more, they arrived at the sea. The body of water that stretched itself out before May and Pumpkin wasn't so much an ocean as it was a giant oil slick lying lazily across the horizon. Sorry. I'm trying not to yawn. Actually, let me readjust myself. Okay. They both walked. Oh wait, no. It looked like something had been. It looked like something that might have dripped out of a car, except that it was endless and vast, so big that they couldn't see any end of it. Is there a way to... No, I can't stop recording. I mean, I could... pause, Pretty sure there's no pause thing here. It's fine. Okay. It looked like something that might have dripped out of a car, except that it was endless and vast, so big that they couldn't see any end of it, and it filled May with a sick kind of dread. Up to this point, everything she had seen since the portal had a slight glow to it. The sea was the opposite of that. It was It was a complete absence of glow. I guess I didn't know how black could get. May muttered softly. Mm-hmm. Pumpkin agreed. May wanted to say that the water was also somehow enticing. It took effort. It took effort to tear her eyes from it and look around to figure out where they were. They looked left, then right. To the right was more desert. To the left, cliff met cliff met with beach, creating a narrow strip of sand beside the water. Like like the sea, the strip seems to go forward endlessly. It looked desolate and lonely. She gazed out at the sea, which lapped at the sand lazily. Yeah, like Vanta Black. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking about. Just like the total void of darkness. Okay. Uh, sorry. Oh my god. When I woke up this morning, I just wanted more sleep. I just wanted more sleep. Hold on. Let me do something. Hello? Hello? Okay. I don't want it to detect everything, but also, like, hopefully you can still hear me. Okay. I think it can still hear me. I just lowered, like, the volume thing on the OBS thing, so hopefully that's good. Oh, good. Wait, what were you saying, dude, Sam, about? What? I forgot what I was talking about. I don't know what the dude Sam was about. Oh, yeah. Like, I don't know why, but I want more sleep. Okay. Okay. That's the kind of comfort I strive for. Alright. Okay. Enough knocking. Uh, enough goofing around. God, I'm so tired. Okay. Um. She gazed out at the sea, which lapped at the sand lazily with oily little sighs. It was actually hard not to look at. She must have been staring for a while because when she tore her eyes away, Pumpkin had laid out a feast in front of her. Honey, pomegranates, three tiny cakes decorated with, uh, with tiny coffins. He had arranged it all in the shape of a smiley face and was now lying down a few feet away, resting, his body hovering an inch above the sand. Oh, thank you, Pumpkin. Snort. I mean, I guess I should do the like that. Hopefully the mic can hear that. I'm pretty sure it can. Pumpkin was already asleep and snoring. May gobbled up all the food that had been put out for her, almost guiltily, since Pumpkin couldn't have any. When she was finished, she brushed the crumbs off her bathing suit and stood up, rejuvenated. The water pulled her eyeballs back in its direction. It was so cool and dark. Maybe she would just dip a toe in the water. Maybe she would just dip a toe into the water. Ooh, what's happening? I certainly don't know. Do you know what's happening? Ooh. Kicking off her shoes, she paddled across the sand. She was just a few feet from the water's edge when she came to a stop. The water glistened and winked at her. It was almost as if just to accommodate her. Each gentle wave was reaching toward her softly. Umph! She felt herself being yanked from behind, and then she was on the ground. A tangle of legs and arms that sorted themselves into Pumpkin's and hers. Oh dear, Pumpkin breathed, dragging her backward like a crab. Pumpkin, what's the... They both climbed to their feet, breathing hard and looking at each other. May's body buzzed with the tiny electric shocks where Pumpkin had touched her. Finally, when he'd caught his breath, Pumpkin sighed. Oh dear, I should have told you. He frowned and looked down at his feet. How could I forget? Stupid. Forget what? May demanded. Pumpkin's mouth settled into a straight, determined line. You must never, ever touch a drop of the Dead Sea. Oh yeah, I guess like the Dead Sea. Hold on. Okay. Pumpkin's mouth settled into a straight, determined line. You must never, ever touch a drop of the Dead Sea. May glanced out at the water, then back. Why not? It'll take you. May's gut sank. You mean there's a water demon? Pumpkin shook his head, his large, droopy eyes earnest and solemn. Oh no, much more powerful than that. Anyone who touches a drop of the Dead Sea will be immediately transported to South Place, way down under the water. Because it's probably... yeah. South Place? It sounded like some kind of pretty beach, like in Florida. But you remember that Arista had said it was where the dark spirits came from. South Place is a terrible realm. Very bad. The worst. Pumpkin shivered. Whoa, May breathed, glancing out toward the water. Actually, Pumpkin began sheepishly tugging at May's finger to get her attention again. You shouldn't even look at it. A blush crept up his cheeks. Arista told me to tell you. May frowned. It made sense now. How enticing the water had looked. How she had felt drawn to it. May walked over to the spot where her sack lay, and she began packing up. I'm sorry, May. That's all right. Pumpkin pressed a palm up against her lips and spoke through the cracks between the fingers. Are you mad at me for forgetting? No. Are you sure? May sighed. Yes, I would be. I mean, yeah, but also, Pumpkin's more pretty. I almost died. I mean, yeah. wouldn't be mad at Pumpkin. Pumpkin is a cinnamon roll. Confirmed by me. Um, okay. Uh, May sighed. Yes. Can I have a hug? That is true. But also, I don't know, he's just. I think May knows him at this point that he's forgetful. But at least he woke up soon enough to go and save her. Otherwise, she would have been, you know, actually dead. I would be a little mad. Well, a little annoyed. Sorry, I just got distracted. Okay. Can I have a hug? May had never hugged anyone but her cat and her mother. She didn't know what to say. Um, I guess so. Pumpkin threw his arms around her and hugged her tight. She accepted it stiffly, trying not to flinch at his strange, cold touch. As soon as he let go, May hefted her back and smoothed out her bangs with her index fingers, moving them apart. Pumpkin, he didn't have much in the way of bangs, brushed at his tuft. Uh, when they started walking down the beach again, they stayed close to the cliffs as the Undertaker had advised. Hey, look, May said, pointing to a gaping hole at the base of the cliff up ahead. The Undertaker told me about those. They're the catacombs. What do you know about them? Pumpkin shook his head. It looks like a good place to have a sleepover and tell live one stories. Live one stories? You know, where when you sit around with your friends and tell stories about live ones coming to the realm and exercising you. Oh, Pumpkin blushed. I mean, never mind. May didn't reply. May didn't reply. It's just, I think most live ones are scary, but not you. I think most ghosts are scary. Pumpkin shrugged. Well, anyway, I never really did that, sitting around telling live one stories, but I always wanted to. Why didn't you? I don't really have any friends besides Arista. Pumpkin sounded like he wanted to be. Pumpkin sounded like he wanted to sound cheerful. And he says live one stories are for ghosts that don't know ectoplasm from their elbow. Pumpkin hunched his shoulders slightly. Sometimes he says I don't know my ectoplasm from my elbow. I'm sure that's not true, May said, after a moment, shyly. I suppose you don't have any friends either? Pumpkin said airily. May shut her lips tight. Damn. I mean, I feel like he should know her best, because he's her house ghost, so. A few hours later, May made sure they settled far from any cave entrances, but still under the cliffs, using their sacks as pillows. They were lying on their beds. May with a full belly and heavy drooping eyelids. It had been a full day of walking, and her muscles ached. But she kept looking around, scared to go to sleep in case someone happened upon them in the night. She shifted a little closer to Pumpkin. I miss my grave, he said wistfully. I can't sleep when I'm away from it. May rolled onto her side. You sleep in one? Pumpkin nodded. May was silent, trying to imagine that all spirits get one. Um, May was silent, trying to imagine that. All spirits get one, Pumpkin offered. Even if you haven't lived, of course, everybody needs to go. Everybody needs one to get to Earth for haunting. What do you mean? That's how I always get to your house. The graves are doors to the spirit pathways. You have your portals for the spirits of the newly deceased. You have your portals for the spirits of the newly deceased to get to the ever after. That's what you came through. They only go one way, but each spirit gets a grave in the afterworld to go back and forth. May shut up. May shut up. Shut up. But I couldn't just go through one of those pathways to get home? Pumpkin was shaking his head. But the grave paths are very complicated. Each spirit can only find his way through his own. If you tried someone else's, you'd never find your way out. You'd be lost forever. A bunch of spirits have tried it. That's why we have Lost Souls Day, to remind us of the golden rule of haunting. What's that? Hopping gravies is for babies. Oh. May tried to absorb this, thinking that maybe the spirits in charge could have done better. She rolled herself up into a ball on her side. Pumpkin did the same. Then she flopped over onto her back and watched the stars. Pumpkin? Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Pumpkin nod. How long have you been my house spirit? I don't remember. I moved in when the first house was built there. It was actually it was a teepee, actually. May's mouth dropped open. That must have been years ago. I don't know, but it was very cramped. Smelled like. He tapped his lips, thinking, venison. May pictured Pumpkin tramped into a tent and stifled a chuckle. What about our house? Where did you stay? All over. Mostly the attic, but I spent a lot of time in the kitchen. I liked watching you and your mom eat and talk, but sometimes it made me too sad. May swallowed. Why? Pumpkin shrugged. Just a feeling. I don't know. You make each other sad sometimes. May picked at her fingernails, her throat tight. Pumpkin cleared his throat. And then, I spent a lot of time with you, in your room. Now it was May's turn to blush. She thought of all the times she'd changed in her room, and all the times she'd picked her nose. I loved watching you do your little projects, your drawings and your inventions, and all the beautiful pictures you hung up on your walls. You kept the sight for a while. Pumpkin smiled, looking at May, but past her. We were such friends when you had it. You used to lie in your crib, waving at me. But then, when you got it again, you looked so scared, and that made me scared. You don't get the sight back unless something serious happens. You have to be touched by a powerful spirit. I really didn't know what to make of it. You followed me to the lake that night. Pumpkin was quiet for a long time. I saw you going into the woods, and I knew the portal was back there. I wanted to make sure you were okay. Pumpkin frowned. I'm sorry I didn't get there sooner. Then you wouldn't be here at all. Well, May hesitated. Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't. I'm sorry I didn't thank you for saving me. Pumpkin was silent for a few moments. Welcome. They both shifted awkwardly. Pumpkin, Arista said you ghosts come to haunt at midnight, but all the stuff you're saying means you were there before then. Pumpkin shrugged. Aren't you supposed to be in my house now? May asked. Pumpkin's gash of a mouth straightened into a crooked line. Yes. And you're breaking the rules? For me? Pumpkin didn't answer. He blushed. Are you gonna get in trouble? A spirit who doesn't show up for work can't. A spirit who doesn't show up for work can get fired. What does that mean? They don't pay you? They can revoke your earth privileges. You mean you'd never be able to come back to Spurry Swamp? I don't know. May nestled into her sack. Pumpkin did the same, and soon he let out a snore. May, on the other hand, was far from sleep. She was thinking of all the times she'd holed up in her room making art, coming up with her strange ideas, dreaming of faraway places and pictures. All that time she thought she'd been alone. She looked over at Pumpkin. He was lying on his back, his skinny arms flung out to the side, long and gangly and delicate. Then she closed her eyes. She tried to see her big white farmhouse back in Brewery Swamp. Maybe if she concentrated hard enough, she could really see it across all the miles, using mental telepathy. Where was her mom? What was she doing now? She was concentrated, but only the backs of her eyelids stared back at her. No farmhouse, no mom, no somber kitty. She could imagine, though. Her mom was probably hunched over the kitchen table, lit with worry, waiting by the phone or talking to the police. Somber Kitty was probably snoozing. Maybe he was glad after how she treated him. Glad not to get dressed up like a warrior cat anymore or dragged into school for dance shows. Glad not to be underappreciated anymore. May wished more than anything that she could show them both how much she loved them. She felt sorry. Her whole heart was sorry for everything she had ever done to worry them. She closed her eyes and tried to send her love all the way to Earth. She didn't know if it could travel that far. And that is the end of chapter 15. I just want to make a little mark on the Discord that this is start chapter 15. Okay, I just want to say that. There we go. So I know where I began and where I left off. All right, let me just take a swig of my water. Let me actually do something real fast. There we go. Okay. This is chapter 16. Chapter 16. Actually, wait, hold on just a sec. Sorry. I want to get my chapstick. Okay. There we go. Alright. Chapter 16. Dark Spirits Afoot. I always wanted to go to the beach, May said. She and Pumpkin had been walking in silence for 2 days, only talking when it was time to stop and eat, and even then, only exchanging a few words. May scanned the sky as they walked, then looked down the beach behind her to make sure there was no one in sight. I like the woods a lot better. Pumpkin nodded agreeably. Once I get home, I'm never going to the beach again. Pumpkin nodded again. May sighed. She never wanted so much to talk to someone. In school, she always kept her mouth closed as much as possible, but Pumpkin was losing his scariness. In fact, he was starting to seem less scary than some of her classmates. So, how do you like being Arista's house servant? Pumpkin shrugged. It's okay. You don't like it? Pumpkin shrugged. May didn't understand how sometimes he could be so chatty and then make it so impossible to pull out 2 words. They walked in silence some more. May searching her brain for another subject. Well, what do you do if you could do anything? Pumpkin looked at her, surprised. What do you mean? Well, just imagine you could do anything you wanted to do. What would it be? Pumpkin stuck out his finger, thinking. Have you ever heard of William Shakespeare? May nodded eagerly. Sure. Well, he runs a song and dance revue out in the Nothing Plateau. It's very famous. Really? I want to work there. As a singer. Wow, really? May knew she must have looked shocked because Pumpkin turned crimson. I'm sorry. I just had no idea you could sing. And you seem kind of timid. I don't feel timid when I sing. May smiled. She knew what he meant. She wasn't timid when she was running through the forest being an Amazon. Oh, man. I'm gonna have to try and sing. I'm sorry ahead of time. Can I hear some? What? Oh, no. Oh, please, let me hear you sing. Pumpkin was shaking his head, but in that way that people do when they really want to talk them into something. Please? May was practically hopping up and down. Just not too loud, okay? She added, peering over her shoulder again. Pumpkin stopped in his tracks. Okay. He cleared his throat. Okay, he said again, getting up his nerve. I like to imagine that there's a whole bunch of specters who've been in horrible accidents in the audience, and they're missing arms and legs and things and really needing to be cheered up, right? May nodded. Okay. I get up on stage, make a few jokes, and then... Oh man, I don't want to... Oh wait, did you text me? Oh shit, did you text me? My bookcase has been delivered, yay! I'm so glad, I'm happy, yay! Yay, my bookcase has been delivered. Is it heavy? Damn. Kind of knew it. Do you want to put it on? Do you want to? Sorry, people that are trying to hear me read and maybe possibly sing. Um, do you want to put it together tomorrow? Like you can come early in the morning, something like that? Yay, my bookshelves! Yay! Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled program. Um, I get up on stage, make a few jokes, and then he thrust a hand out into the air and opened his mouth. I ain't got nobody. May stood watching in shock. Pumpkin had the clearest, most fantastic voice she had ever heard. Well, just pretend my voice is clear and fantastic, and then you might hear a hint of Pumpkin in there somewhere. Pumpkin wiggling his hips and looking like a different ghost, poised and confident. Won't some sweet mama come and take a chance with me? 'Cause I ain't so bad. At the last word, he shut his lips abruptly, blinked a few times, and then blushed. May burst into applause. I'm pretty sure that was, well, my singing isn't so great. I didn't put enough emphasis on it. Sorry. May burst to applause. You were born to be in that Shakespeare review. It was beautiful. Thank you. It was. I don't think so, but maybe it was cutesy. But eh, I don't know. It's really hard to do like impromptu singing when the book says, "Oh, a character is singing. Why don't you sing?" Okay. Um. You were born to be in that Shakespeare review. She gushed in wonder. Nah, I'm a house spirit. That's all I'll ever be. That's crazy, May said. You're selling yourself short. Pumpkin giggled modestly. Oh, go on. After, After that, a warm glow seemed to have been cast on the walk. Pumpkin moved with a spring in his hover, and May with a spring in her step. 2 more days went by with nothing. Um, 2 more days went by with nothing but endless speech. Endless speech. On the third day, May and Pumpkin began to make out something up ahead. It took another 10 minutes to figure out what it. It took another 10 minutes to figure out that it was a figure. It moved back and forth along the beach, to the edge of the water and back toward the cliffs. Uh-oh, Pumpkin said. Oh, did I say the name of this chapter? I don't think I did. The name of this chapter is Dark Spirits Afoot. In case you were wondering, or if I feel like I forgot, but I might have just forgot that I already told it. Okay. Um. Pumpkin said. What is that? May asked. The way the figure moved made May cross her arms tightly with worry. It didn't float like the other spirits she'd seen, drifty and slow. It jerked and leaped like a flame. I don't know. May looked at the beat. May looked at Pumpkin, whose face was drawn. Who would be out here on this beach? He shook his head. We should probably walk closer to the cliffs. Sorry about that. Okay. Alright, there we go. Oh, the sunlight is nice. Anyway. Where was I? Oh yeah, we should probably walk closer to the cliff. We should probably walk closer to the cliffs. They had drifted on a soft angle away from them, and now they drifted back, slowing as they continued down the beach. For a while they lost sight of the figure behind a rocky outcropping, and when they saw it again, they were much nearer to it than they had expected. Oh, said Pumpkin in a low voice, clinging to May's arm with a zap, but a small zap. Oh, get down! He pulled her to the sand, holding her in a zappy death grip. The creature up ahead was horribly ugly. He was red and slimy with black, droopy lips, and with a long black spear in one hand. His arms hung at his side and flopped as he moved. He was far enough away that he couldn't see. He was far enough away that he couldn't see them unless he looked hard, but close enough that May could see the glinting sharp. He was far enough away that he couldn't see them unless he looked hard, but close enough that May could see the glinting sharpness of his long black teeth curling out of his mouth. What is that? She whispered, eyes agape. Pumpkin's body trembling against hers made her own teeth shatter. Goal. May slammed her mouth and her chattering teeth shut. The creature looped around the beach in circles, looking up at the stars and then out at the water. Oh, very little light from the stars tonight, Pumpkin whispered, his voice shaky. What does that have to do with anything? May hissed, thinking they had more to worry about than the weather. It's better for them. Ghouls love the dark. Oh, May shrunk closer to Pumpkin. While he watched, the creature thrust a thumb in his nose and began to pick it, pulling his finger out and examining it. Yuck, May whispered. We should turn around, Pumpkin whispered. May had to admit, a thought that had just crossed her mind. You can if you want. Pumpkin shook his head. I don't want to leave you. We should make one. We should maybe take one of the caves, he said, pointing out to an opening in the rock just ahead. We can try and go around them. May followed his eyes. The caves, each one of them that she'd looked into, gaped with pitch black darkness. Um, I think we'd better just wait here until he goes away, May said. She didn't want to tell Pumpkin what the Undertaker had said about the caves turn and she didn't want to tell Pumpkin what the Undertaker had said about the caves and turn him into a blubbering mess. What if they had to go in? If he comes this way, we'll just duck into the tunnel until he's gone. But I don't want to lose my guts, Pumpkin said, moaning. May stared at him, then at the caves again, indecisive. Finally, she said, I promise I won't let you lose your guts. They settled down into the sand to wait, both sitting cross-legged with their eyes back, with their sorry. The ghoul continued to do. Wait, no. They settled. They settled down in the sand to wait, both sitting cross-legged with their backs against the rock of the cliffs. The ghoul continued to do his little weird dance around the sand. May and Pumpkin agreed to take turns keeping watch to see if he left or came in the direction. But May, whose turn it was to rest first, had a hard time falling asleep, knowing the goal was so close. She kept wondering what it would feel like to have her guts eaten. Pumpkin woke her sometime in the middle of the night and conked out as soon as she'd taken over watch, snoring loudly. She tried to hold his nose to make him stop, which turned her fingers to ice. She didn't know if the ghoul might have extra sensitive hearing. She was just in the middle of trying to roll Pumpkin onto his side when the ghoul seemed to change his routine. He now stood at the very edge of the sea, peering out into the water. May sank back, alert, and strained her eyes toward the water, but there was only darkness. And then a shadow began to pull away from the black mass of the sea, and then another, and another. Boats, May whispered. A group of 3 long rowboats was inching slowly across the water toward the shore. The goal on the sand appeared to get more excited the closer they got. He snarled and jumped up and down. The shadows moved within the boats. May shook Pumpkin by the shoulder. Pumpkin, wake up! May squeaked. As the tips of the boats reached the shore, the shadows began to scurry out, revealing themselves to be ghouls just like the first. One after the other, they scrambled out of the boats onto the sand, where there were at least 100 of them snarling and jabbling and at one another. That's I don't know how to say. This is what they're saying. Literally, it's nonsense. And it's like, it's basically like that's what I'm thinking they're saying. Like a bunch of nonsense. So, that's how I will be impersonating these goals tonight. May and Pumpkin cowered in their spot, staying extra still. What do you think they're talking about? It can't be anything good, Pumpkin said, pulling his knees up in front of his face so that only his eyes showed and his voice came out muffled. They aren't supposed to be up here. Oh no, not good at all. You think they're up to something? May asked. Pumpkin hugged his knees tight. I just hope they go away. But the ghosts didn't show any sign of going away. In fact, over the next few hours, They built a huge fire and pulled out cases of bottles from the bottoms of their boats, throwing them open and passing the bottles around to drink from. They began they began to get wilder and wilder, snarling louder, dancing around the leaping blue fires they'd built. Some of the gulls stumbled to the outside of the circle and passed out. May noticed one in particular, sneaking toward the crate of drinks and hoisting it up, then scurrying a little farther down the beach. Another girl noticed the first, and as the thief sank down onto the sand with the stolen goods, the other let out an ear piercing shriek. Suddenly, all the creatures dropped what they were doing and rushed down the beach, surrounding the thief. From the center of it all came a loud scream, and then all went quiet, and the gulls straggled back to their fire. The thief had disappeared. What happened? May whispered. Where'd he go? Pumpkin whimpered. Maybe they ate him. They looked at one another and moved a little closer together. That night they moved back to the very mouthful of the, to the very back. That night they moved back to the very mouth of the cave behind them, and Pumpkin kept watch while May's eyelids drooped as she was asleep until she was asleep. In the morning the gulls were all still there. They had laid out their towels all over the beach and lounged on their stomachs and backs, reading some books and some reading books, some sipping on drinks. They're starbathing, Pumpkin explained. I have heard gulls are very into their complexions. Goblins too. May and Pumpkin stayed in their spot at the side of the cliff, May drawing holes in the sand with her fingers. All day the gulls stayed put, and that night, around midnight, another host of boats arrived. It's like they're getting ready for something, Pumpkin said. That night, the gulls erupted into the same loud revelry they had the night before. It seemed to May that Pumpkin was right, and that it was more and more dangerous to stay. Around dawn the next day, May awoke to a scratching sound, and something hit on her forehead. Ouch! She sat up, staring upward. There was Pumpkin, holding onto a tiny ledge of the cliff, reaching above himself. Got it, he said, breaking a shiny piece of rock off the wall. He landed, grinning at May and holding up the rock. Silverstone, he said proudly. Hold on, just want to make sure. Got it. All right. As he did, there was a loud crumbling noise above, and they both looked up. Ah! May lunged for Pumpkin and pushed him out of the way, just as a pile of rocks slid down from above and landed in the spot where they'd been standing. Uh-oh, Pumpkin said. They both turned to look in the direction of the gulls. Several were standing up, peering in the direction, and then a few started to walk toward them, sniffing the air. Pumpkin! May whispered. Pumpkin looked at her very sadly. Sorry. She looked into the mouth of the cave, then back at the beach. The gulls were on their way. Summer Kitty curled up in a tiny nook in the rock and peered out at the strange landscape of the Southwest ever after. He had never lost his bearings before, but he had lost them now, and it was very distressing. Confusion and embarrassment were quickly turning his accustomed melancholy into true sorrow and misery. Sorrow and misery. He was even too sad. Sorry, I thought I heard the house phone ringing. Where was he? What was I? He was even too sad to meow. For 7 days, Somber Kitty had wandered along the banks of the Styx streamway, with only a lady's pointed finger to guide him. He hadn't encountered another soul, living or dead, and though the smell of danger had drifted far behind him, the uncertainty was almost as bad, not to mention the hunger. He hadn't eaten in a week. Truth be told, Somber Kitty was losing hope. Curled in a spot in the cave, he was drifting off into another hunger-induced sleep, when he saw something drifting toward him across the landscape. It reminded him of the sun, or, at the very least, a light bulb. If he had known more astronomy, it would have reminded him of a comet. Somber Kitty was too mesmerized to hide. The light entered through the cave and drifted down beside him. It laid what felt like warm hands on him and stroked his back and scratched behind his ears and his favorite spot under his chin. The warm touch felt like love itself, and Somber Kitty knew something about love. The petting only lasted a moment. The light gave him one final squeeze and drifted away. Somber Kitty stood on his tired legs and pressed on. And that is the end of chapter 16. All right. Woo, Bowie, boy. All right. All right. Chapter 17, Into the Catacombs. May pulled her starlight out of her pocket and held it up to illuminate the walls of the tunnel they had entered. Ah! Pumpkin cried, and leaped up as the walls of the catacombs came into focus. They were lined with thousands of eyes, staring at them. May stumbled back a few feet, the light glinting along the walls, and then, Pumpkin? He had already run halfway back toward the opening of the caves. It's just skulls, look. May made a wide arc with her hand, showing that the thousands of eyes belonged to skulls that lined the walls like bricks. I think I know where she got the inspiration for the catacombs. Alright. Whoa, May breathed. Pumpkin started to inch back forward toward her. They were in a tunnel that led... Sorry, I got distracted again. Alright, They were in a tunnel that led into shadows up ahead. The ceiling just barely arching above Pumpkin's hair, so that he stooped slightly. These tunnels are very ancient, Pumpkin pointed out. Some of these skulls are thousands of years old. May was impressed. Maybe she had underestimated Pumpkin. How can you tell? Look. He pointed to his skull down at the level of his thigh. Somebody had carved into it with a tiny, sharp instrument. Nebuchadnezzar. I'm gonna see if that's a real person. I feel like it might be, but I might be wrong. Hold on. Nebuchadnezzar. Nizar. I only see Nebuchadnezzar. Oh, he was the king of Babylon. No, but I'm talking about the first. Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar. Cool. Yeah, it was the fourth king of the second dynasty of Essene and fourth dynasty of Babylon. The fourth king of the second dynasty and of the fourth dynasty of Babylon. He ruled for 22 years. Cool. Anyways. Nebuchadnezzar? Is that how you're supposed to pronounce it? Hold on. Oh, I guess that's how you pronounce it. Hold on, I wanna hear a Nebuchadnezzar. Ah, Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, there we go. There we go. He pointed to his skull down at the level of his thigh. Pumpkin had carved something into it with a tiny, sharp instrument. Nebuchadnezzar was here, April 4th, 103. Pumpkin started skipping along ahead. Pumpkin, be careful. He looked perplexed. You should let me lead. I have the starlight. They trudged forward, May lighting the way with her light, following the winding of the tunnel. A few minutes later, they reached a spot where it forked off into two branches. She pulled out her compass. Nine Naves Grotto is between here and the city, so if we're headed toward the city, we're headed toward the grotto. May held up the compass toward the tunnel on the left. The needle tipped very definitely to wrong way. What about this one? She asked, holding it up to in the direction of the other tunnel. The needle tipped to scenic way. Oh, May sighed. She remembered her mom's scenic routes when they drive out into the counties that neighbored. Burry Swamp to look for antiques, staying off the highways. What I wouldn't give for one of those boring trips now, she thought. Summerkey had always tried to sneak into the car in some way, jumping into Mrs. Bird's huge purse or leaping onto the roof of the car. Why hadn't May just let him come? She choked back the lump in her throat. May really didn't want the scenic route now, but it seemed to be the only choice. For hours, they'd followed the twists and turns of the cave. May listened for the sound of anything that might be sharing the catacombs with them. It was much cooler in here, and May shivered. It's weird being in here without the sky for so long, she said to Pumpkin. He drifted along tentatively a few feet behind her. Every time she waited for him to catch up and walk beside her, he fell back, pretending his shoe was untied or acting like he'd seen something interesting from the ground, until May was again safely in the lead. May had been hoping the caves would lead them back. would lead them back into the open before it was time to sleep. She worried that her compass might be wrong and that she would end up going. Uh, sorry, I just need to stretch and move. Uh, okay, sorry about that. All right, back to the story. Um, May had been hoping the caves would lead them back out into the open before it was time to sleep. She worried that her compass might be wrong and that they would end up going farther and farther into the heart of the cliffs and never come out again. The road that they were taking did seem to run parallel to the Dead Sea, though there was no telling for sure. Finally, they were too tired to go any further without at least a little sleep. She and Pumpkin lay right down in the middle of the tunnel. There was nowhere else to go. I hope we get out of here tomorrow, she said. Me too. This place gives me the creeps. In the glow of May's starlight, Pumpkin and May looked at each other. I'm glad I'm not alone in here. Pumpkin nodded. Me too. May crossed her arms, squeezing her elbows. I wish I had a blanket. She tried to snuggle closer to Pumpkin, but his body was colder than the tunnel was. At least the zapping had faded. May guessed she had gotten used to it. I'm sorry, he said. Ghosts are just cold. That's okay. May snuggled close to him anyway. Pumpkin? Mm-hmm. Thanks for coming with me. She smiled at him, and he smiled a jagged smile back. It looked more like a grimace. Then she blew out her starlight. May? May was shaken by the shoulders. When she opened her eyes, she saw Pumpkin leaning over her and frowning. He held the starlight in one hand. What is it? Look. Pumpkin pointed to a spot behind May's hip. By the dim glow of the light, she saw a big black lump in sand right beside her. May scrambled back a few paces, walking like a crab. That wasn't there last night, she said nervously, suddenly wide awake. Pumpkin nodded. She snapped her head up and down the tunnel, as if she might see who had left it there. But the tunnel was black beyond a few feet. What is it? May. Pumpkins kept silent, inserting one finger into his mouth. How do you think it got here? Again, nothing, except the rattle of Pumpkin's teeth. They knelt on the sand, staring at it, as if it might leap up and bite them. May reached toward the object slowly. Sorry, I lost my place. knelt on the sand, staring at it, as if it might leap up and bite them. May reached toward the object slowly, but nothing. Her fingers landed on it gently. It was made of fabric, the softest, silkiest fabric May had ever touched. I think May lifted it gently and began to unfold it. Pumpkin, it's a blanket. They both gave each other a meaningful look, their eyes wide. Then May peered up and down the tunnel. Do you think someone heard us? She whispered. Last night? It was too much of a coincidence. May's stomach felt heavy. She pulled the blanket onto her lap and unfolded it all the way. Glowing green strands of embroidery formed themselves along the top edge, where the blanket came to a silky black border. She ran her fingers along the stitches as they appeared, curving around themselves in cursive letters. For May, remember to stay warm. May gasped, then peering up and down the cave again. Whoever it was, they were gone. What does it say? Pumpkin said, staring at the words. Here. May held it down toward him. Pumpkin held up his hands in a stop motion. Reading is a lot of work. He sighed loudly for emphasis. May sighed back and read the words to him. Then they sat staring at the blanket, thinking, Who do you think left this? Pumpkin shrugged. Then his eyes lit up. Maybe you have a secret admirer, he ventured. May rolled his eyes. I don't think so. Maybe it's from Arista. She looked at Pumpkin hopefully, but he was shaking his head so hard that the tuft of hair on top of his skull swayed. Arista wouldn't leave his bees, he said, and he doesn't like surprises. No, I suppose it wouldn't be him. Arista didn't seem like the type who would follow them into a tunnel and leave mysterious blankets on the ground for them to find either. May looked down at the basket, not the basket. May looked down at the blanket. She reached a hand toward it and did the last unfold. Then she gave into the impulse. Okay. Sorry, I gotta readjust myself again. Man, all this readjusting. All the readjusting. All right. May looked down at the blanket. She reached a hand toward it and undid the last fold. Then she gave into the impulse to pull it around her shoulder. The world around her went from dark to bright. May blinked, holding one hand up in front of her eyes, and then, oh my gosh. May had to blink several times more. Oh my gosh. She was in her room back home, sitting on her bed and wrapped in the blanket. They were her pictures of Egypt and Samoa. There was her desk and her bookshelf. Above, her wind chimes tinkled. She reached out and touched them. They were real. May looked around for Pumpkin, but he was nowhere to be seen. Then she sat forward to peer out her window. There was the view of the front yard and the woods beyond. Mom? She yelled. Kitty? She hopped up, ran to her bedroom door, and threw it open and froze. There was nothing coming from the other side but orange light. May? A voice called. May didn't answer. She didn't want to. And then the world around her went dark again, and she was facing Pumpkin. Hugh held the blanket in his arms. What happened? He said. Are you okay? Yeah, May said, trying to shake the image of her house. Trying to shake the image of her house. You looked like you fell asleep. May took the blanket from his hands. I was home. She pulled the blanket around her shoulders again, and once again she was in her bedroom. She reached for her door. She reached for her bedroom window and opened it. But when she did, the familiar view disappeared, becoming the orange light again. She pulled the blanket off again, and she was in the cave. That's when she noticed a little white tag. Yeah, she's totally home again. Yeah, totally. She's totally home again. Problem solved. She's home again. The blanket will transfer her. She's a 10-year-old girl, man. What do you expect? Oh, my dog is listening to me, and he's kind of whining. All right. Anyways, um, that's when May noticed the little white tag hanging off the bottom of the blanket. In awe, May read it out loud. This comfort blanket was handcrafted by the spirits of North Farm. Oh, Pumpkin said. The spirits of North Farm. Lucky? May held the blanket out at arm's length. North Farm, she repeated, unsure of whether it meant she was lucky or not. As to whether it meant she was lucky or not, and in fact made her feel guilty. Caught. I wonder why they would send you a blanket. May ran her fingers along the words again. Remember to keep warm. She wondered whether she could trust Pumpkin with her secret. There's someone who sent me a letter in Brewery Swamp. I guess it could be from her. Pumpkin looked hurt. I wonder why she didn't send me one. May cleared her throat. The Undertaker said she might have taken an interest in me, and that maybe I have someone on my side. May didn't say that the lady had also asked for her help. She was too ashamed. She hunched her shoulders as if the lady were in the cave with her, watching her, disappointed. The scary part was that this blanket made it seem possible. Pumpkin considered. I hope she's on my side, too. I always wanted my own blanket. He looked at May pitifully. It was just a very Pumpkin look that May couldn't help but smile. A few minutes later, they were on the move again. May reached into her knapsack every once in a while to sink her fingers into the soft velvet of her blanket, reassuring herself it was still there. She tucked her letter and her picture alongside with it, and she ran her fingers over those too. It all made her feel close. Yeah, that's my dog. Um, where was I? Um, it made her feel closer to many things that were far away, and that made her smile. Up ahead, Pumpkin seemed to be in good spirits. He was singing some kind of cheerful tune. When we met after you crashed in that jet, I thought you were the one for me. You floated my way. all filmy and gray, and I just had to say, gee. May wondered what it. May one wondered about it being a love song. Did spirits fall in love? She didn't see why not. But Arista had but Arista had said spirits didn't grow or change. Did that mean they couldn't? She was in such a good mood. She didn't ask Pumpkin to keep his voice down, forgetting that someone or something might be in the caves, listening. You say banshee, I say bogey. Let's kill the whole thing off. May was reaching around to touch her blanket again when a sound made her pause. It was faint at first, and then louder. Click clack, click clack. The skulls on the walls all around them were shaking and rattling. May leaned toward Pumpkin. We The laugh echoed through the tunnel. It was high and delighted, like a child's. Pumpkin's knees began to knock together. What's that? He whispered. I don't. Suddenly, May could see a shadow on the ground in front of her, growing larger and larger. She turned around just in time to see a white flash zooming down the tunnel before it hurtled past them, blowing their hair back and careening off the walls before disappearing into the darkness again. May and Pumpkin both flattened themselves against the wall, breathing hard and peering up and down the tunnel. They stayed that way for several minutes. Nothing stirred. The skulls had all gone quiet. I think we'd better get out of the caves as soon as possible, May said. Pumpkin didn't sing any more after that. And that's the end of chapter 17. 17! The next chapter is a pretty short chapter. It's only 3 pages. And then after this, I guess I'll read up to chapter 20. That sounds like a good place to stop. Alright, chapter 18. A Deadly Mistake. A Deadly Mistake. May watched more anxiously now for tiny caves that might take them out to the beach again. She was starting to think that coming into the caves had been a deadly mistake. Pumpkin took to whistling softly to pass the time and settle his nerves, and May kept having to remind him to stop. On the 5th or 6th time that he forgot and started whistling again, May came to an abrupt halt. She turned on Pumpkin with a stern gaze, and ignoring the tiny cold shocks that she was getting used to, she reached out with her free hand and physically closed his lips together. They felt like dried worms. May grimaced. Pumpkin, she said, I really need you to be quiet. Pumpkin stared at her, looking comical with his long eyes searching hers, and her hand still in his mouth. And her hand still in his mouth. Hold on, let me just comfort my dog, because I don't think he knows what to do. Okay, I'm coming. Yes, I'm here. What happened? Why is this light on? Did you turn it on? Are you just checking up on me? Yeah, you just checking up on me? Okay, mister, you gotta go. Okay, come on. I'll give you a treat. I'll be right back. I gave all my dogs a treat because they were being good dogs. Okay. Back to the main program. All right. Pumpkin stared at her, looking comical with his long eyes, searching hers, and her hand still on his mouth, his lips puffing through them like fish lips. I'm trying to recreate the sound. I don't even know what he's trying to say. He splurred. May scowled at him. Puff. With a sound like someone blowing out birthday candles, Pumpkin's face disappeared into blackness. The light! The light! May whispered, letting go of Pumpkin's lips. It went out. Maybe I have something in my bag. Pumpkin offered. Let's see, he whispered. Food, water bottle, lucky Silverstone. May froze. A high, tinkly laugh had come from behind her. Pumpkin's teeth began to chatter. What was he? This time the laugh came from in front of them. Ha ha! He ha! I'm just reading I would laugh like normally, but this is how the book wants me to read. So I'm just, doing that. My dog is back in front of my door. Laughing noises overlapped one another, climbing on top of one another and seeming to come from all different directions. The skulls on the walls began to shake. May spun around in a circle. May, Pumpkin moaned. He sounded near tears. What? Ha! The laugh was just right behind her ear. May spun away. Run! Hold on. I hear my dogs barking, but it just might be their imagination. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting lost. Alright. The skulls on the walls began to shake. Oh, wait, no. The laughter was just right behind her ear. May spun away. Run! Dropping her pack with a crash, May started sprinting and slammed right into the wall. Right into a wall. A batch of skulls tumbling down, hitting her heavily on the shoulders and arms and legs. May backed up and started running again. She could hear Pumpkin wheezing and groaning right behind her. Look for a tunnel out, she cried, but her voice got lost. Hundreds of voices rang through the caves, laughing harder and harder, joyfully, delightedly. May scraped up against the wall as she ran. As she ran, she didn't even know in what direction they were going in now. They could be going back the way they'd come, which meant it would take hours to get outside again. May felt her legs start to give way. Her lungs pounded and squeezed against her ribs like an overinflated balloon. She couldn't run anymore. She couldn't run much more. And then she saw it. It was up ahead. so faint it could have been imaginary, the tiniest slip of dim, dusky light. As she got closer, it became more defined, the jagged rock edges that marked the entrance, the gentle rise of the sand outside. Ha! She tore through the archway into the light. Pumpkin slammed into her from behind as she skittled to a halt. They emerged onto a tiny patch of beach, no bigger than a few feet across, and there, right at the tip of May's toes, was the oily, greedy sea of the Dead Sea. Greedy water. Ugh. And there, right at the tip of May's toes, was the oily, greedy water of the Dead Sea. Before she could back up, the water oozed forward, its tips stretching out and turning into long fingers of water that reached toward her. May sucked in her breath to scream, but a weight around her chest pushed it out of her in a whoosh. Suddenly, she was being dragged back inside the caves, her feet making two long lines in the sand. She only had a second to catch Pumpkin's black, terrified eyes before she was pulled into the darkness. All right, that was the end of chapter 18. Chapter 19. Man, we're getting so much reading done. Well, I'm getting so much reading done. And I guess we're, like, on the halfway mark of this book already. Cool. Alrighty. Chapter 19. The Cave Dwellers. Deeper and deeper into the catacombs, May was dragged through low tunnels and tiny crevices, no wider than her shoulders. She shrugged and kicked, but her feet couldn't find purchase in the sandy floor of the caves, and the light coming from behind her was blinding, making spots swim in front of her eyes. Suddenly, the space around her seemed to expand, and with an unceremonious thud, she was tossed into a big cage that swung from the ceiling right near the wall. She immediately threw her hands up before her face, shielding her eyes against the blinding light, and then the light zipped away and disappeared. She waited in darkness for it seemed like half an hour or more, rattling her cage, wanting to get to Pumpkin. Then the light zipped in again and began to dim, helping her make out the vague outline of a human shape. It backed up a step or two. When the light settled at a faint glow, May couldn't believe what she saw. Staring back at her was a boy, no more than 12 or 13, with sandy hair and wide blue eyes rimmed with long eyelashes. He had pale, fair skin, slightly rosy at the cheeks. He was tall and thin, wearing a white button-down shirt under a blue jacket and a blue and tan striped tie. He stared at her, looking almost as surprised as she herself must have looked. "I didn't know you were pretty." The boy seemed to think better of what he'd said. Just because he started blushing, let me restart that sentence. My God. The boy seemed to think better of what he'd said because he blushed scarlet. Then he zipped across the room, a flash of white light disappearing. The hall went dark. May felt something in her back. Ah! She swatted between her shoulders, reached down and grabbed whatever it was, and flung it across the room. The glow appeared again, and there, scurrying away along one wall, was a ghostly tarantula. There was a white zip of light across the room, and the boy was standing in front of her again, holding his hand over his mouth and chuckling. "It's fake, you know. I really got you." "I don't think that was very funny." May said boldly. The boy immediately stopped laughing and pulled his hand away from his mouth. He suddenly looked he looked suddenly scared and worried. Really? I'm sorry. Well, what are you going to do with me? Do with you? The boy asked, his eyes wide like doe eyes. Do with you. He scratched his chin and began to pace, illuminating the walls as he walked. I guess the others I guess the others want to see you. You're certainly a strange type of spirit. May opened her mouth to say that she was in a spirit, but then she stopped herself. She leaned against the back of her cage. What do you want? She whispered, trying to keep the trembling voice out of her. The boy blinked his doe eyes at her languidly, confused. Want? Oh, I don't want anything. I've got everything I need right here. With that, the boy zipped around the room again in a white light, bouncing off the walls and ended up across the hallway. Then why were you chasing us? May squeaked. The boy squinted at her, seeming to try to make the question out. Why? Oh, I don't know. He began to laugh. You should have seen it your face when I blew your light out. He broke into a delighted giggle. May clenched her mouth shut, and he walked closer to the cage and stuck his finger around the bars. Suddenly, his eyes were serious again. Hey, do you think you might want to be friends? Friends? May whispered. Yeah, the boy smiled tentatively. Here, shake on it. He stuck his whole hand into the cage. May couldn't hold back. She slapped it away. I'm not your friend. Pumpkin. May's pulse throbbed. She had to get out of here. She had to find Pumpkin. The boy had gone completely silent, and his glow had all but died. I didn't mean to excite you. To May's shock, his eyes grew wide and sad. I thought we were having fun. I'm sorry. May sat in her cage, flabbergasted. Oh, I didn't mean it, the boy said with a moan. In a flash, he zipped out of the room, leaving May in complete darkness. Wait! Come back! Come back! Her voice echoed behind her. Please! Nothing. May rattled the doors of her cage as hard as she could, but it didn't budge. Then she got quiet again and waited for several more minutes, straining her ears for anything. There wasn't a sound to indicate that anything lived in the catacombs at all. May stood up and grabbed on the door of her cage. Hey! Hey! Come back! Please come back! She quieted for a moment. Then she had another idea. I forgive you! Please come back! I forgive you! Zip! A flash of light pinged against the walls. 1, 2, 3 times, and there he was, standing in front of her again. That's kind of you, he said. May nibbled her finger. She had to keep the boy by her and convince him to let her out. That much was clear. What's your name? May asked. Lucius. Lucius? May repeated. She'd never heard a name like that. That's really pretty. She flashed what she hoped was a winning smile. Lucius smiled back, clearly flattered. It means light. Appropriate, isn't it? He held up his brightest glowing arms to underline the point. What's yours? He asked. I'm Maybird. Maybird, he repeated. That's nice too. I suppose you want to get out of there then. May nodded furiously. She boldly stuck out her hand and Lucius took it. Though he was full of warm light, his fingers were ice cold. Sorry, I've been stuck in the cage tons of times playing jailbreak, but it drives the other boys crazy because I don't mind it. Everybody gets sick of it. I forget that sometimes. He floated up to May's cage, pulled a giant key out of the pocket of his baggy khaki-colored pants, and unlocked the door. Thanks. She stared at him, her pulse growing, her pulse racing now, like horses at the Kentucky Derby. Let me say that again. Thanks. She stared at him, her pulse racing now, like horses at the Kentucky Derby. Pumpkin, did you see what happened to him? Lucius seemed to be searching his mind. You mean the big-headed fellow? May nodded eagerly. Yes, the big-headed fellow. I was wondering, could you please see if he's all right? I'm worried the sea might have taken him. Lucius seemed to consider this, eyeing her thoughtfully. Why don't we go check together? Really? May tried not to show how relieved she was. Something told her not to give Lucius a reason to change his mood. Can you take me back to where we left him? She asked gently. Lucius nodded proudly. Yes. I could take you with my eyes closed. Please, let's just go with your eyes open. The beach was deserted. May stayed well within the safety of the arch of the cave, but even from there she could tell that Pumpkin was nowhere on the small slip of sand. No, she whispered softly. I think the waves must have got him, Lucius said gravely. Yes. Remember that one that was right up beside him? Yes. Now that I think of it, that's probably what happened. May's eyes started to blur with tears. She wiped them secretly. She wiped at them secretively. I'm sorry about it, he said. He looked like a perfectly nice fellow. You're sorry? May cried, unable to hold it in. Pumpkin! She threw her hands up over her face and then felt another pair of hands on her, pulling them apart. Lucius had his face right up next to hers, and he was grinning. Just kidding. Gosh, you're easy. Come with me. Just back through the caves they went, twisting and looping until they heard a giggle up ahead. Oh, oh. May's heart caught in her throat. Pumpkin! She ran ahead, bursting into a small round room with a neatly made bed, a holovision set, and shelves full of model airplanes and old cars. Pumpkin lay splayed on his stomach on the bed, reading a magazine. Pumpkin! May ran to the bed and wrapped her arms around Pumpkin's neck. He rolled his eyes at her, pulled away, and said, Where have you been? Where have I been? She asked, disbelieving. What are you doing here? Pumpkin shrugged. Lucius rescued me from the wave, and I've just been here reading these magazines. He waved one titled Miss Zombie. Next to him sat the knapsack May had dropped in the caves. She looked at Lucius. He continued grinning. Pumpkin and I have been getting to know each other. I went and got your bag for you. But, do you like my room? May looked around. The room was very old-fashioned. She felt herself getting shy now. Yes, it's nice. You two will stay and play with me for a while, won't you? You two will stay and play with me for a while, won't you? He looked at from one to the other. Nobody ever comes to visit. May looked at Pumpkin. Hugh nodded at her eagerly, knocking his legs against the bed. Personally, she didn't think she liked the way Lucius played. Um, we can't stay. Lucius frowned. Oh? Oh. Lucius, May said gently, I'm in danger. I'm trying to get to a place called Nynaeve's Grotto to find a certain specter, and I have to get there without being seen. Lucius frowned, concerned. You're hiding? Yes, I'm hiding, and I can't hide forever. I need to get out of here. Her voice came out even and calm, but inside she feared that she would say the wrong thing and Lucius would zip away. Lucius nodded sympathetically. However, suddenly, seeming wiser and sadder than the mischievous boy he had been a few moments before, he looked over both shoulders and then leaned toward her, meeting her brown eyes with his blue. I'm hiding too. What are you hiding from? May asked, blushing blushing at being so close to him. Lucius's eyes widened, and he backed up against the wall. Behind him, his light dimming. He sat down against the wall, putting his hands up in front of his eyes. No, please! Lucius? May hurried and knelt down beside him. Lucius? He kept his eyes buried in his hands for several seconds, but then suddenly he looked up at her. His eyes were as clear and untroubled as a calm Caribbean sea. Where did you say you needed to go? May hesitated, confused. Nynaeve's Grotto. A huge, delighted grin spread itself across Lucius's face, and the fear completely disappearing. Oh, that's easy. I'll take you there. With that, he leaped up, his glow becoming so bright that both May and Pumpkin had to shield their eyes again. Oh, sorry, he said, dimming to a comfortable level. He led them through several tunnels that seemed to go deeper into the catacombs. Every few minutes, a sound would be heard from down one of the caverns. Muffled whispers, laughter. Don't worry, Lucius threw over his shoulder cheerfully. They'll leave you alone as long as you're with me. They all know you're here, of course. We know everything that happens in the caves. Pumpkin and May shared a worried glance. Excuse me, Lucius, but who are they? The other boys. Oh, this is sad. This is a little sad. I remember this part now. The other boys, Lucius said, turning right and disappearing from sight for a moment until May and Pumpkin turned after him. They're all hiding like I am. I hope you'll forgive me for the pranks, he said honestly, glancing back at May. He seemed to be a different boy once again. This one sincere, honest, handsome. We get so bored, you know. It's lonely in the caves, even with the others. You never leave? May asked, amazed. Oh no, Lucius said. It's too dangerous out there. I'm readjusting. That's why I'm moving so much now. Okay. Oh no. It's too dangerous out there. He looked at her sadly. I do miss the outside, though. I haven't seen much since the Ever After. I haven't seen much of the Ever After. I found this place on my way south after I died and stayed. I haven't been out since. But why is the outside so dangerous for you? Lucius looked at her as if she'd asked the most obvious question in the world. Well, he might get me. Again, Pumpkin and May exchanged a glance. Who? Lucius looked around, then continued to drift on ahead of them. Hold on just one second. Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay, cool. All right. Lucius looked around, then continued to drift on ahead of them. He seemed to have forgotten the question or ignored it on purpose. We're almost there. He floated several feet ahead, where the ground began to rise. Soon they were climbing, not steeply, but steadily. May watched his back sympathetically, thinking how horrible a life in the caves must be. May didn't know what the rest of this world was like, but she couldn't imagine being happy without seeing the sky, without a mom or a cat, or just a bunch of boys playing games. Lucius zipped farther ahead, disappearing around the bend. He let them catch up to him a few minutes later. How old are you? He asked. 10, May answered. Why? Oh, I'm 13. At least that's the age I was when I died. Lucius looked at her thoughtfully. Are there other girls like you out there? Ones a bit older? He asked, then bit his lip and blushed. May blushed back. I don't know, she answered. I'm sort of new. Oh, right, Lucius nodded. He hurried on ahead of them, glowing their way through the darkness. As soon as he was a safe distance away, Pumpkin leaned toward May and whispered in a dramatic, solemn way, I think I understand about Lucius. What do you mean? Luminous boys. Pumpkin whispered. Have you heard of them? His eyes, he widened his eyes at her for effect. May shook her head. Of course she hadn't. The path had gotten steeper, and they were no longer on sand, but on something harder. May turned to catch Pumpkin as he tripped over an outcropping of rock on their path and continued. Oh, yes, that's gotta be it. It makes sense. Hiding in the caves. Arista used to talk about them. They spend eternity living in fear. Very sad, really. Can you imagine? Pumpkin shook his head. Tisk, tisk, tisk. May yanked at his ragged sleeve. Pumpkin, what is it you were going to tell me? About Lucius. Pumpkin drew the moment out as long as he could, smoothing his tuft of hair and thrusting his chin in the air acknowledgeably. Oh, luminous boys are a very particular kind of specter. They all flock together and stay in very tight spaces, hiding because of what happened to them when they were alive. He stuck a pinky in between his lips, looking stricken. Well? May whispered impatiently. What happened to them? Pumpkin frowned, his oval eyes huge. Luminous boys are boys who were taken by the bogey in their sleep, sucked into the ever after through their nightmares. Just then, Lucius zipped back to check up on them, giving May a dazzling, sweet smile. May rubbed at the goosebumps along her arms as he squinted at her. Say, you're not like any spirits I've met, Lucius said. You move differently and... May gulped, then forced a smile back on her face and interrupted him. I'm new, she repeated. Oh, look there! She pointed up ahead. The light down the tunnel had begun to change. It was much more dim and gray. It was much more dim and gray than Lucius's light. "Oh, yes," Lucius said, leading them up farther and finally pointing one arm toward a round opening up ahead. "That's the way to the grotto." And that's the end of that chapter. Oh, and I finished just at 2, what I wanted to do. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. Thank you.